Over the past 50 years, Climatech has grown and kept pace with the ever-changing HVAC industry, providing our customers with the best knowledge on the most innovative systems and services.
Serving Lorain and western Cuyahoga counties, Climatech is a full-service heating, air conditioning, and ventilation company. A third-generation, family-owned and operated company providing the most up-to-date level of service and installation with the best quality products.
Today, your comfort demands customized solutions utilizing best industry practice combined with high-quality, reliable products that protect you and your home.
The HVAC industry will never stand still. It's a commitment to the environment that we learn, train, and produce next-level efficient products and services.
Partnering with Green Sky Financing and our dedicated customer care software allows us to give you the comfort that you need in your home.
Smart products, smart technicians, and dedication to details drive us to deliver highly effective products into your home today and into the future.
Welcome in for week 2 of the Climatech Inc. NFL prediction show of season 4. Week 1, always an interesting week, Vince McKee, because a lot of upsets always happen. It's hard to predict that week. I'd say the 2 toughest weeks to predict is week 1 and week 18, because week 18, the teams that have locked up playoff spots, a lot of times they sit their starters, so a lot of underdogs win. I would say the 3rd toughest week is week 2. The beginning of the season is always crazy. So like I said, week 1, week 18, and week 2, probably the toughest weeks to predict. And despite it being tough to predict, Vince, we come into this one knotted up at 8-8. So going in the same trend we went last season, where anytime one got an advantage, we pulled it back close. We were tied for a lot of the year and came down to just that one game difference at the end of the season. Again, like I said, knotted up here right now. Vince, happy to have you here and excited for week 2.
Absolutely, Cole. You know, I've always had the philosophy when it comes to week 1 that I want to break even. I know it sounds crazy, but I've always said that if you could go 8-8 week 1, it's not that bad. I think last year we went like 5-11 or something crazy, or 6-11. So, you know, definitely an upturn. It levels out, I've always said, in October. So the first 3 weeks of the season are really wonky. Once you get to October, that's when you start separating the good teams and the bad teams and the mediocre teams, and you kind of go from there. I do want to point out one thing that I thought was fascinating, and I believe I texted you Friday morning after the Chiefs lost when I said, how crazy would it be if all of your picks were accurate and we saw Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes lose, right? Never saw that come in my opinion, the top 3 quarterbacks in the league. Then you throw in there Justin Herbert of the Los Angeles Chargers. They lost as well. So really what I feel to be, 4 of the top quarterbacks in the league all lost. A lot of people, maybe over freaking out a little bit about Josh Allen last night. Certainly not the debut we thought we were going to get from that Buffalo offense with him and everything else this season. But a long stretch to go. Clearly Rodgers getting hurt. I thought I was going to be up on you 2 games. I'm not going to lie. When Rodgers went out, I was like, oh, might have a nice little 2-game lead going into week 2, but unfortunately, that is not the case. Zach Wilson is certainly not the answer, but Buffalo just would not stop giving them back the ball, and look what happened.
Well, the good news for the New York Jets is that they have a great defense that forces a lot of turnovers. It's what single-handedly won them a good handful of games last season because they were not as talented on that roster last year, and they, of course, didn't have a quarterback. Last night, Zach Wilson then has to come in, and I have to say that probably this offseason, him being behind Aaron Rodgers, he's at least learned from Aaron Rodgers for a couple months. So even though you'd like to see him have more time to learn from Rodgers, I do think Zach Wilson looked improved. A lot of some of the same habits. Wasn't necessarily perfect, right? Absolutely not. But he did look a little bit better. So that's an encouraging sign for the New York Jets. Hate to see Aaron Rodgers go down 4 plays into his career with the Jets. Would have liked to have seen what would have happened there. So on that standpoint, I hate to see Rodgers go down, especially since he's towards the end of his career. Going to be tough to be out this year and at his age come back again. But I have a gut feeling that Aaron Rodgers, even though a lot of people think this could be the end of his career. I feel like he's not going to want to end this way. I wouldn't be surprised if he finds a way to at least lace him up for a couple more games at some point in his career. Of course, that would mean he'd have to come back for another season in order to do so. But certainly hate to see that he's going to be out for this year. Just an unfortunate injury for him. So, but that being said, the Jets, I think they're going to try to roll with Zach Wilson, but it would be smart to bring in a free agent quarterback, a Matt Ryan, a Carson Wentz, somebody who's experienced, bring them in, make them really the backup for Wilson immediately, have that veteran presence on the bench and be able to kind of wait in the wings. Because again, it seems like Zach Wilson, it's going to be his team. But certainly my prediction of the Jets getting to the Super Bowl felt more realistic when Aaron Rodgers was going to be part of that team, but don't necessarily know if they're going to have the weapons, the power to make it through the AFC. But on the Browns side, have to feel good about how things have really been panning out your way. Hate to see the injury, right? But at the same time, that does help open up the AFC. All those strong teams losing helps open up the AFC. Browns could certainly be in the mix to perhaps take the conference in general, which is a really encouraging sign.
Well, I don't know if I'm gonna go that far so quick, but what I would say is that a lot of us had the Jets 6, 7, or 8, right? When you looked at the top 7 in the AFC and you try to procrastinate or prognosticate the AFC final standings, right? A lot of people might have had the Jets 6, 7, or 8. They might have had the Browns 6, 7, or 8. So clearly, this is a what I would call a bubble team in the Jets, is how I saw them. You take a bubble team with the Jets, and now you have a bubble team with the Browns, and clearly you would think now the Browns have that one up. I'll be honest with you here, there's some issues going on with the Cleveland Browns that I'm still a little bit nervous about. We'll get to that when we break down their game, but didn't really like at all what I saw of that offense, with the exception of Nick Chubb. I thought Watson was horrendous in that first half. Not sure what's going on there. Hopefully they'll get that cleaned up. But yeah, as far as injuries go, definitely so far to walk out of there with all your skill position players, as the Browns did, completely healthy, just a huge bonus. But one last thing I'll say about the Jets before we really get started here is I was loving to see what we were going to get out of Garrett Wilson, right? So, I mean, he made that one amazing catch in the end zone, but I wanted to see what he was going to do all year long with Aaron Rodgers. So that's kind of a bummer as a fan.
Yeah, he's still going to put up big numbers because he did so last year, but maybe it's not quite
but you know what I mean.
Level.
Just a highlight of it all. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get this week started here in week 2 and see if we can break this deadlock, since we're still already knotted up this year. We're going to start with Thursday night football, and it's the Minnesota Vikings and the Philadelphia Eagles facing off. Minnesota coming off of a surprising loss to Tampa Bay, a close one in that one. And Philadelphia actually had to really deal with a battle from the New England Patriots there. Not the greatest weather, but the Patriots looked like they were going to get blown out because it was 16-0. And then they made it interesting, and it was close. So two teams that had different results, but had tight battles. Vince, how do you see this one going?
Well, I got a good look at Philadelphia. Truth be told, after the Browns game, it was my daughter Madeline's birthday. So we took her out to dinner at BJ Brew House, I think it's called. And we were lucky enough to be right by the TV, right? So we were there a while, right? And it was great because the Philadelphia Eagles game was on. So the entire time, right behind my wife, I was able to watch the Patriots Eagles. So I saw the whole game, more or less, of the Eagles. I was very impressed with what they had to do. I would be shocked, quite frankly, if they lose to Minnesota. I think Minnesota, we are just now starting to really see their decline. Cole, nothing says Thursday night football like you and I picking football games, right? It seemed like every year, almost every week last year, we picked different on Thursday night. I don't think that trend's going to continue. I'm taking Philadelphia. I think Philadelphia is a strong contender, not only to still win the NFC East over Dallas, but possibly make the Super Bowl. They look great. Going with the Eagles, and I got to say, I have a hunch I think we're going to agree, but you might shock me here.
So yeah, I have Philadelphia going 15-2 this year. I think they're going
Yeah.
to be very successful. They're going to lose very, very few games. The thing is that's interesting. You and I both were in agreement that Minnesota, they got fortunate last year where they had an NFL record of games won in one possession games. That's not really a sustainable formula with winning. And I think with their defense taking a step back with the talent they have on defense, offense is going to be right about the same. I think Madison's a step back from Dalvin Cook, but Addison's a step up from Adam Thielen. So I think the offense is going to be about the same this year. They're going to really put the ball in the air with Kirk Cousins. He's going to throw it a lot. But on defense, that's where I think there's a lot of questions. So I think we saw in week one already a little bit of the step back we're going to see from Minnesota. But I'm going to say this. Minnesota surprisingly lost to Tampa Bay. I did not expect them to lose to Tampa. I didn't expect Philadelphia to have such a tight game with New England. And if you go back and you look at my preview, preview for the season, my predictions, there's something in week 2 that might have been of interest that you might want to go back and take a look at, because I'm going to continue this trend on Thursday nights, Vince. The upset, Minnesota, the Vikings, they defeat the Philadelphia Eagles. That's one of the Eagles' 2 losses I have this season. I think it's going to be more of a fluke surprise thing. Philadelphia then is going to kind of give them the kick in the rear to pick things up, and then they're going to go on a long run for a long time in the season, probably before they face Dallas, is how I feel. But Minnesota, they need that pick-me-up after that last loss, and I think they're going to do just enough throwing the ball. And Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, they're going to find a way to get this done in a close battle, 27-24, Minnesota.
Interesting. We will see what happens. I scanned your week 1 picks pretty good, just because I then had to put them in when we did the article.
Right.
But no, I mean, well, interesting. I didn't that flew by me, but regardless, I was going to go with the Eagles. So
an upset on Thursday night. We're already starting this off on different pages. Shall it continue? On Sunday Night Football, it's the Miami Dolphins and the New England Patriots. And I have a hunch. I know where you're going with this. And I'm probably going a different direction, unless great minds think alike here. I'm going to say the New England Patriots win this one against the Miami Dolphins. They played Philadelphia tough. I think the Patriots are really a surefire team to be last in their division, even with the injury to Aaron Rodgers, because of that defense of the Jets being so good and some of those other weapons that the Jets have. I still think they're going to be better than the Patriots in general this year. But I think against Miami, I think Ramondre Stevenson's going to be able to run the football and have an even more successful game than he had against Philadelphia, because that box isn't going to be quite stacked to the same caliber as you saw with the Eagles. I also think that there's something about the Patriots and the Dolphins always splitting. It feels like almost every single year. Even years where the Patriots were the much better team, they'd go down to Miami in the heat and they'd struggle. So my gut feeling is that these two teams are going to split once again, and it's more likely it's probably going to happen now earlier in the season than when Miami's probably really in full swing and really fully kicking later in the year. So I have another close one here, but that's why I have New England winning this one 23-21 over Miami.
I think this is a hell of a game. Love the choice for it to be Sunday Night Football, quite frankly. You always want that Sunday night game to be a good one. I agree with you. I think the Patriots are going to be the last place team in that division, even with Zach Wilson starting for the Jets. I just think it's a down year. As I said, saw the whole game, Philadelphia versus New England, saw a lot of things sitting there celebrating that birthday. Quite frankly, I was watching football. But the thing about it is I think this is going to be the first time in a long time that we see the Patriots lose their first 2 games at home. It's unheard of to think that in the Bill Belichick era, they've almost never lost in the month of December. We're months away from that, but September is still, there's a lot of juggling around going on with both teams' offenses. I love what I saw. I'm not a big Tua fan. You can go back to that draft show, and I'm almost positive. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he came out the same year as Jalen Hurts. And I've never been a big Tua fan, even going back to college, going back to our draft show that year. I'm on record numerous times, but loved what I saw of him week one. Tyreek Hill just absolutely lit it up. I don't see the Patriots stopping that. And in a bit of a shocker, like you said, I actually see Miami going on the road on a Sunday night to Gillette and walking away with the victory. That's 2 games already, folks. 2 different picks.
Yeah, 2 already. I mean, Tua Tagovailoa put on more muscle and a little bit more weight. I think that's a good thing that he did this offseason. He's an accurate passer. And with the speedsters of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, if he just puts it on them, they're going to make things happen. So it's such a quick strike electric offense that Miami has. The question is, can Tua stay upright? Because if he doesn't, you're concerned about his head injuries and having seemed like 3 documented concussions last season. Is that something that he can stay healthy, avoid that, and end up being okay to not just play for this season, but really for a long career? That is to be determined. But when he's out there, he's actually looked pretty good here as of late. And I do think that putting on the muscle, the added weight, at least helps him a little bit too, to maybe absorb some of those hits and maybe see if he doesn't go to ground as easily when he gets hit. But like I said, I think New England, they're just going to take this one. But I do like what I'm seeing from Miami, and they had a really good game against the Chargers, one of the better games of the weekend in a shootout. And I think we both expected that it would be a shootout in that one.
Oh, absolutely. The Chargers frustrate me. You and I for years have been high on the Chargers, and for years they continue to let us down. So we'll see where it goes this season with them as well. But yeah, I mean, that was just frustrating. I was kind of hoping to watch that game as well. Just unbelievable. And Tua, I'll go back to the Dolphins real quick here. Tua and Hurts are not the same quarterback, right? I mean, their styles are a little bit different. People want to go ahead and just bunch them together. They both came from Alabama at one point until the transfer, but still, these are 2 different guys. Bill Belichick is a very smart coach. He's going to be able to scheme differently for Tua than he did Hurts. But I think at the end of the day, I think Miami's just going to start the year with some punching power. So very excited for that game. Don't think I would be for a Patriots Sunday Night Football game, but I think this one's going to be pretty good.
So as Vince mentioned, 2 different already, and we move to Monday Night Football. Now there's 2 games on Monday night. Of course, the Browns play on Monday night, but we'll touch on them here a little bit later. The early game on Monday Night Football is the Saints and the Panthers. Now, last week when we were talking about our show, we had a bunch of different games, and we're thinking, hey, we're not going to be able to be tied. It seems like we have all the games that are different. The one that we figured out after the show that was different was the Saints and the Titans. You chose the Titans, I chose the Saints. And what a terrible game that was. The Titans looked bad. The Saints, they were not firing on all cylinders. But when it mattered, Derek Carr, his receivers, they came up big. They got the job done. They ended up winning. But now the Saints take on a division rival in the Panthers team that really felt like Bryce Young was terrorized a little bit by Jesse Bates in that Atlanta Falcons secondary, of course, through multiple interceptions. So, Vince, how do you feel this week for the Saints? Are you going with them or against them for a second week in a row?
Going with them. I think Derek Carr, I love Derek Carr. Again, been a big fan of his for years. I mean, I don't know. I'm not so sure that the Saints won that game as the Titans threw it away with kicking field goals nonstop. It was almost like, and I was getting angry too, like, especially towards the end. I'm like, come on. But, I really thought Vrabel, I expected more out of him. I expected him to be more of an aggressive coach. Just the Titans really frustrated me. I continue to pick them over the years, really the last 2 years, and they continue to lose. So I think that's like 8 straight regular season games they've lost, 8 or 9 at this point, going back to last year. But we're not talking about them. We're talking about the Saints. And I actually think the Saints are a stronger team than I initially gave them credit for. They should win that division. I like Desmond Ridder with Atlanta a lot. We might end up talking about him here in a little bit. But even that being the case, I think Derek Carr, the veteran leader, they should get it done. Don't see many problems here. Carolina, I don't do a Cole McDaniel and pick the entire season at once, but I can see them going like 4 or 5 wins at the most, and I don't think this is going to be one of them. So I'm going to go with the Saints.
Yeah, the Saints defense is still a good defense, right? It's not maybe the defense that you think of when you think prolific defenses that are going to force turnovers. Everybody's thinking the Cowboys, the Jets, some of those defenses right now. The Saints are just solid, right? They almost kind of slide under the radar, and really, unless you play fantasy football, a lot of people forget about how good that Saints defense actually is. It's going to be a tough test for Bryce Young, because I would say that even though the Falcons have really revamped their defense, the Saints still have the better one of those two teams. And Bryce Young had his struggles, turned the ball over a couple times against the Falcons. Wouldn't be surprised if this coming weekend on Monday night he turns the ball over a few more times when they go up against the Saints. I also think that Derek Carr in his first game with his receivers, they're really just trying to get that chemistry. Sure, they've had all offseason, but it's different when you get out there in actual regular season games. I think you're going to see Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, you're going to see the weapons really get in sync with Derek Carr more and more as the season goes on. And I don't think that Carolina has a great defense themselves. So you could see the Saints actually really kick it into high gear, not put up so little points like they did in the last game. I think they're going to double their point total or so, and they're going to take care of business. I actually have them winning by 14, 2 touchdowns versus the Panthers. I don't think that's going to be really that close of a Monday Night Football game between those two teams.
Well, you said one name there too that I think a lot of fans have forgotten about, and that's Michael Thomas. You go back 3 years, about 3 years ago, he's one of the best receivers in football. This was a guy catching almost 100 balls a year, 13, 14, 1,500-yard receiver. He's very talented when he's healthy. If he's completely healthy, and again, with a motivated Derek Carr, I can see the Saints doing some things. Obviously, a shout-out to our guy, Tony Bogan, as we know New Orleans is his favorite team as well. But yeah, definitely going to have to agree with you on this one.
And let's go to our upset picks. And couple that I was looking at here, and obviously there were a few that I could list as my upset pick, but I decided to go with one that probably is pretty predictable with how I feel. And if everybody looks at my predictions going into the season, Tampa Bay's the favorite in their game against the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears, they didn't look great against the Packers, but I think what happened for them more so, I think there's a lot of good things on that defense. I think they're getting a little bit older. They're getting more experience. I like the young talent they have. I think this is actually going to be a good Bears defense this year. I think that Justin Fields, he has the running ability. He's going to be improved as a passer. I do believe that Alexander and a couple of the other guys in the Packers secondary, they played DJ Moore well. Chase Claypool didn't look too good. So I just think that if you can get DJ Moore free a little bit, then that's going to really help Fields. I think the biggest thing for the Bears is they got behind the chains early and the whole momentum swung against them. In their first drive, they got the football first. On 4th and very short, they went for it. They went for that sneak, and it was probably a bad call. Looked like the Packers defenders kind of submarined, and Fields decided his only way to get the first down was to go over the top, and he got stopped short. So turnover on downs in their own territory, and immediately things unraveled within the first 2 or 3 minutes. I think if you don't have something like that happen and momentum swing against you immediately, the Bears have enough talent to compete with this Buccaneers team. The Bucs, they won last week, but I would still, even though I think the Vikings are taking a step back, I'm still going to say that I think the Vikings are actually the better football team than Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's got a lot of talent on that defense. But again, I still, until they really string a bunch of wins together, and they've won 3, 4, 5 games this season, I'm still going to think that Baker Mayfield's probably being used as a sacrificial lamb. I don't think it's going to be sustainable with them winning a bunch this season. I really feel like they could honestly be a team to win a couple early in the year and then go on a skid of like 10 losses in a row. So I'm going to say that Tampa loses this one. Chicago, they get the win as underdogs. Fields has a bounce back day, and it's a bounce back really start to the season for Chicago.
It's funny you say that because that was one of my upset picks. I knew for sure, well, I wasn't say for sure, but I would have bet money you were going to go on that just based on our feelings about Justin Fields and Baker Mayfield and the history involved there. So it doesn't shock me. That's my upset pick as well. I'm going to give you an extra one just to make it fun this week. As I looked over, there was actually, like you said, several candidates here we could have talked about tonight. And I will talk about another one in a second. I want to touch on that real quick, though. I believe we saw the worst game the Chicago Bears are going to play all season long. And I kind of at the same time feel like we saw the best game Tampa Bay is going to play all season long. It just happened to be week one.
Yep.
I really truly believe it. Justin Fields to me is just a diamond in the rough. It's only a matter of time before this guy absolutely starts balling out. We saw the Bears take the handcuffs off of him a little bit late in the season last year. I just feel this is a better team than people realize. Not exactly shocked that Tampa Bay is a 3-point favorite in this one. I mean, they're at home. Maybe if it was the opposite, they wouldn't be. I don't know, but gonna definitely stick with my gut and pick the same exact upset pick. Me and Cole had the same one, but I have another one I wanted to talk about as well. Now, there's two other ones too that I've been jumping around. Baltimore and Cincinnati. I'm actually going to go with the Bengals. So I'm actually going to pick the favorite there for the sole reason there's no guarantee that Mark Andrews is going to be back at tight end for Lamar Jackson. That's a huge help for him. And obviously, J.K. Dobbins being lost for the season is going to hamper Baltimore. If Dobbins was playing in this game and Mark Andrews was for sure playing in this game, I actually would have picked Baltimore. They would have been an upset pick. I mean, them going on the road, only 3.5 dogs. I think they would have been able to beat Cincinnati there. But that being said, I think Cincinnati has a bounce back. So I picked the same as Cole, but I also have like I said, there were several I'm going to talk about tonight. Another one, which may shock a few people here. Let's take the Falcons at home to upset Green Bay. As I'm looking at the spread here, at least on Yahoo, it has Green Bay as a 1.5-point favorite. I really, truly feel the only reason why they're favored in this game is because they looked so good week one against Chicago. Do we expect Jordan Love to do that 2 weeks in a row? Do we expect that Green Bay offense to do that 2 weeks in a row? Again, as I always say, time will tell. Have to play the games. But I just like what I've seen out of Atlanta. They got on a bit of a tight spot week one, bursted out of it, ended up winning comfortably in that game. Love what I see out of Desmond Ridder. Every year there's a couple teams that start the season 2-0, 3-0. Nobody sees it coming. I think the Falcons might be one of those teams. So going to lock in 2 here on the record. And again, check that article. There might be more. There may not be more. Got to look at the article to find out. But 2 on the record here, Chicago and Atlanta as my upset picks.
Well, you know that I had Atlanta beating Green Bay as well. You and I are on the same page there because Bijan and Algier, Aaron Jones and Dillon, I think that's kind of a wash. I think both are two-headed monsters, and I think that the ground game could get going for both of those teams. I think defensive-wise, I think the Falcons have actually taken a nice step in the right direction, so I think that actually could be quite even between those teams. But I think the advantage is Jordan Love looked great in week one, but I'm very skeptical on Jordan Love. I don't think he's going to be nearly as good as what some people might be thinking after what they saw in week one. Ridder, though, on the other hand, everybody was kind of down on him, saying, oh, he only passed for a little over 100 yards. He was so efficient. 15 of 18. He was on the money with his passes, and they really didn't open up the playbook either. Everything was really underneath, check down. They didn't have to open up the playbook. They were running the ball well, and they were taking care of business against the Panthers. So why open up the playbook if you don't have to? I think against the Packers, they're going to need to. So they'll open it up a little bit more. I think you're going to see the skill of Ridder show a little bit more, but I still have the belief in the Falcons, and with them being at home, again, I give them the advantage. I'm going to say they win that game. So you and I are on the same page there as well with that one.
And again, if you pay attention to our show, I don't think either one of these picks should shock anybody, as we are both big on Fields and Ridder. So Again, our loyal fans, I don't think you're sitting there really shocked right now.
No, probably not. Probably not. But I will say on the other Monday Night Football game as we turn to the Browns, and this is going to be a fun one on Monday Night Football in Pittsburgh. Expect that Pittsburgh's probably going to be wearing their all-black uniforms because we know the Browns are wearing their all-white with the white helmets. So we see the debut of the white helmets coming up on Monday night. That is the one that starts about an hour after the first Monday Night Football game between the Saints and the Panthers. And Vince went against the Browns in week 1, and I went with them, kind of like last year when I did the same thing at home. And this time, the Browns thumped the Cincinnati Bengals. The defense was dominant, saw a lot of good things out there. Of course, Vince wants to touch on what he saw from the Browns a little bit more and then talk about this one. I have a gut feeling that we might actually both be on the same page with this game this week. But of course, I want to kind of get your analysis. You had a few things you wanted to talk about as well from the past game for the Browns.
Sure. Number one, let's get the obvious out of the way. It's taking the Cleveland Browns to win this game. I think they are a clear-cut favorite and should be, even going on the road. You know, I'm one to play streaks. I usually play a lot of streaks. I'm not going to do that this time. I actually think this is going to be the first time since '03 that the Browns go in there into Pittsburgh and win a regular season game. So first time in 20 years. I just think they're the better football team. What concerns me is the lack of development from Deshaun Watson. As much as I hate preseason football, it might have done the Browns a little bit of good to play him more than they did. I'm not sure what's going on since day one when we traded for this guy. No, I'll go back further than that. Since they had a chance to draft him, I have always been high on Deshaun Watson. I am a huge Deshaun Watson fan. That's no secret. He looked horrible in the first half of that football game. Missing receivers, really the underthrowing is what I cannot get past. I understand the ball was wet. I understand there might be a fumble or a slip here and there. That's perfectly natural. But he just, to me, didn't seem in sync and didn't have the kind of arm strength just to put it where it needed to be. Now, let me preface that. How did I start the show tonight? What was one of the first things I said? Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow all lost, right? Burrow looked terrible. Allen looked terrible. That's why I'm not freaking out. There's a lot of time for this guy to – I don't think it's rust at this point. I don't know what it is, but there's a lot of time for him still to get comfortable. The next 2 weeks really fit this Browns team well for him to do that against the Steelers, even though it's a really good defense, but a very winnable game. And against the Tennessee Titans, if I'm not mistaken, week 3. I'm pretty sure – I might be wrong on that one. I have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure they play Tennessee week 3. Regardless, that is a couple wins that they should be able to get, maybe get him more comfortable. There's still a lot of time. I mean, we saw a lot of weird things. We saw David Bell drop a pass week 1. How often do you see that? Unfortunately, They did not go back to him after that. Regardless, it has me a little bit concerned. What I do like, though, I love Jones coming in, the right tackle out of Ohio State, comes in, fits that role perfectly. Jack Conklin cannot stay healthy. You had to see that coming a mile away. Browns were smart to draft an offensive lineman when they did of his size. I love that move. Obviously, Chubb looked good. I'd like to see a little bit more of Jerome Ford. Yeah, he had 18 carries last week. A lot of them were in mop-up time. We'll see what he can do. I think we're going to see a little bit more of him coming up this week. All that being said, I am far from jumping off the Deshaun Watson bandwagon. That's not what I'm saying here. But would love to see him come out and play 4 really strong quarters of football. Last thing I'll say quarterback play-wise, Kenny Pickett. I don't know why they drafted him when they did. I still have never seen the hype in that. Just haven't. I really have no other way to complete that sentence. I don't know where that hype is coming from when it comes to Kenny Pickett. They looked awful week 1 against San Francisco. This should be a win for the Browns.
Well, I want to talk about, obviously there was the weather aspect. So you mentioned the wide receivers and, some guys dropping the football, like the David Bell drop there. That's one of those where the weather was so bad, where it was like so weird too, because it was only raining right over the city, over the stadium, nowhere else in the area was actually getting rain at that time. Maybe a little mist throughout the day, but there was no hard downpouring rain aside from right over the stadium. Probably played into the Browns' hands a little bit, but when it came to some of those drops from some of the receivers, I'm not too concerned because you see most of them, they took their gloves off. They went bare hands because the gloves were soaked. Of course, those gloves, when they're dry, it's like stick them, right? The football just sticks to the gloves. When it's wet, it kind of doesn't help, almost makes it worse at times. So you saw Elijah Moore took off the gloves. David Bell looked like he had his gloves off. A lot of guys had the gloves off, which, again, as good as they are at catching the football, it's still different than what they're used to. So I'm not overly concerned. That David Bell situation too is one of those things. His feet slipped a little from under him. The commentators even talked about that a little bit too, where it's hard when your feet start to slide. Again, there's not a whole lot you can do there. Wish he would have hauled that one in, but again, I'm not overly concerned. Not a guy who typically drops the football. So, in general, though, I have to say that I was encouraged by what I saw by Deshaun Watson. I know you said you were concerned from what you saw in the first half. There were others who said they were concerned. I liked what I saw. And why I say I liked what I saw is, let me touch on this. Joe Burrow is one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. And he looked worse than Deshaun Watson. The guy could not hit a pass. Could not hit his receivers. There were a couple good pass breakups from the defensive backs. The corners played very well, so did the safeties. But in general, he was missing throws, and it felt like he was hearing footsteps, rightly so, because of the Browns' defense, and we'll touch on them. But he really was bad in week 1, and maybe some of that could have been because of the calf as well. A lot of it probably had to do with the weather because of the wind and because of the rain. And it looked like every time he threw the ball, it would kind of die at the end, maybe because of that wind coupled with the rain. So there's a lot of excuses that could be made, but the simple matter of the fact is he didn't look good. Here's where I have to say this. Deshaun Watson did not look perfect, but he looked better than Joe Burrow. A lot of times it was because of that running ability, and he had the willingness to run that football and make something happen. He had a couple good throws that were on ropes, and then he had a lot of underthrows as well. And a lot of people were concerned about the underthrows. Here's why I'm encouraged about incompletions that are hitting the ground and are underthrows. Because when you underthrow it, you live to see another day. Where did Baker Mayfield miss on his passes? High. He sailed everything high, which resulted in interceptions. The safeties would come forward, they'd pick it off. By Deshaun Watson missing all of his throws low, that means he was trying to keep it out of harm's way. The only interception he had, it was a tipped football, right? It was actually tipped by the defender in front of him, went into the arms of the Bengals player. Aside from that, he kept the football out of harm's way, which is a really, really good sign. So I was pleased with what I saw. I think in nicer weather or when they go play in a dome, I think a lot of those passes are going to be strikes right on the money. He might put it kind of low to keep it away out of harm's way, but it's not going to die because there's not going to be the rain. There's not going to be the wind that we saw. So I'm happy that he missed his throws low. So that's where I'm at with that. So I'm not sure if – I know you said you were concerned, but based off of me talking about it going low, I mean, wouldn't you agree that's better than sailing it high? Because, I mean, that does put the ball in harm's way.
That's one way to look at it. I don't know if I'd say I'm pleased. I mean, if you're going to miss, I guess it's best to miss when no one else is going to catch it. I'll give you that much. But also, don't miss. Put it on the guy's numbers.
Yeah, but that happens, though. Misses happen. Josh Allen's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He missed.
He didn't look good at all.
He missed a lot in the game against the Jets. Joe Burrow was missing constantly in that other game.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm not freaking out. It's week 1. A lot of them did. Now it's 7 straight weeks, though, of 6 from last year, 1 from this year. He's yet to have a good game. I am hoping that this weekend turns it around. Again, this is a hill I've died on before. I've been a big Deshaun Watson fan since Clemson. I'm not saying I don't love the guy. I just think flip the switch. Let's go. If there's no moisture in the air,
Well,
And it isn't rain. I want to see him light it up on Monday Night Football. Let's go already.
yeah, last 6 games of last season, it's over, it's past. I'm not concerned. More of that was because he was playing in Jacoby Brissett's system rather than his own system. Being under
I agree.
center, that run heavy offense. This was the first time he actually had this playbook at his utilization, a playbook that fits his style a little bit more. And like I said, it wasn't the most ideal conditions. I think we're going to see some improvements, some steps in the right direction. I'm just happy that he's a gamer. He does what he has to do to win. He's not afraid to run the football and take some shots. And you don't want to see your quarterback take a ton of them, but he wasn't afraid to get to that first down marker when he needed to. So again, that is a good thing. On defense, though, I think that's what we have to talk about. The defense was incredible. Jim Schwartz is an incredible addition as defensive coordinator. The looks that he's showing there, it's very much so. I believe in my secondary. They're going to lock down your wide receivers, and we are going to keep sending pressure. We're going to give you different looks. And that look on third down where you bring Myles Garrett maybe from the middle, and you have Zadarius Smith and Obo Okoronkwo, two talented edge rushers on the outside, and then you pair that with another defensive tackle, and then you let Anthony Walker spy on the quarterback. What a beautiful set. We saw that quite a few times, and the Bengals couldn't do anything with it. And I'd argue that most lines in the NFL aren't going to be able to do anything with it. Of course, we saw the clip of Myles Garrett doing the crossovers as he walks up to the line of scrimmage, fakes like he's going left, go back right, and really felt like he left Karras in the dust, the center there. It forced Burrow up into the pocket, and then Burrow was swallowed up by Okoronkwo. The things that Schwartz did were great, but the guys played well. They were zooming around the field. I think they're the heart of that team. And if that defense can stay healthy and play like they did against the Bengals, I think they're the reason the team's going to have a very, very successful season. No matter what the offense does, they're going to be able to win a lot of games. And I'm going to say this, that you and I are on the same page. The Cleveland Browns will beat the Pittsburgh Steelers this Monday night. Kenny Pickett is going to be in trouble, because if Joe Burrow, who's a better quarterback by far than Kenny Pickett, was hearing footsteps and seeing ghosts and really struggling, I think Kenny Pickett's going to have his struggles with a line that is probably about the same as what Cincinnati has. Cincinnati's tried to revamp their line. Pittsburgh's trying to do the same thing, but it's not a great line. So I think that Pickett's not going to be able to do enough, especially with Deontay Johnson not going to be out there. You have Cam Hayward on defense. He's going to have a procedure coming up because of his groin injury. They're missing too many crucial pieces on that team. That's why I think it's not going to be close. For second week in a row, the Browns blow out a division rival, 27-10.
That would be nice. That would be real nice. Two things I want to throw out there about the Browns: third down on defense and fourth down on offense. And let me make this point clear. Third down on defense, what did the Browns do? They got off the field. What have they not done since 99 consistently? Get off the field on third down. I love that. I never thought I would love the sight of a punter as many times as we had seen him punt the Bengals punter. Now, listen, also, you never see this, right? They lost the turnover battle, unless there's something I'm not thinking of, 2-0. We fumbled once. We threw an interception. We did not turn the ball over, right? To Cincinnati. We didn't make Cincinnati turn it over. How often do you see a defense lose the turnover battle 2-0 and still win by 21 points? That was impressive. Want to talk about fourth down if I could. Fourth down. My goodness. How does it feel to have a place kicker for the first time since Phil Dawson, we think?
Yeah, right.
3 for 3. He looked good against the Chargers. He looked good when he was on the Chargers. I remember this guy. Hopkins is a kicker we all know about. I would challenge anybody to try to name 20 kickers in the NFL. You probably couldn't do it once you get past Nick Folk and Justin Tucker and maybe a few others. So that being said, Hopkins was a guy I'd heard of, had seen play, and I'd liked seeing play. Same with Will Lutz in New Orleans. There's another kicker for you kicker lovers out there. But this was a guy that forced Stefanski to play like a smart coach this week and just take the points.
Mm-hmm.
Man, last year, if he would have just took the points numerous times, things would have been way different, I still believe. That being said, it's a comfortable feeling, right? Knowing that you're going to get at least three, you don't have to do anything stupid, takes the pressure off. They built the league kicking field goals. Just happy for him. Happy for that guy that he's with the Browns. Happy for the Browns fans to have a kicker, and it definitely helps the fans when it came to the play calling. So again, third downs on defense, get off the field. Fourth downs on offense for the Browns. You don't want to see them, but when you do, just make the smart decisions. They did. It was fun. It was fun. It was fun. And the only thing that can be funner is if they go into Pittsburgh and get a win. Had to throw this out there, man. Had to throw it out there. One of my happiest memories as a kid, I will never forget it. It's actually in two of my books. Was the 1989 season opener at Pittsburgh, 51-0. The Browns won in '89. 4 defensive touchdowns in that game. I'll never forget it. Watching it as a little boy. If they could just go in there and just dominate like they did that day, that'd be great. Another one on Sunday Night Football back in '03, the last time the Browns went into Cleveland on a regular season football game and won. In '03, 20 years ago, dominated the Steelers in prime time. We have a pretty good record against them in prime time, going back to the last couple of years on Monday night and Thursday nights. I would love to see this again. We owe him a receipt. One of Baker Mayfield's last games as a Cleveland Brown. He got crushed in Pittsburgh on a Monday Night Football game. Also, one last thing as I keep talking here, many things keep jumping in my head. I just love this rivalry. One of the best rivalries in sports. But I really think it's cool. Cole mentioned it a little bit ago. The all-black for Pittsburgh. The all-white for Cleveland. The only thing that would make that sweeter, because it's going to look incredible. At night, it's going to look incredible. It would be really cool if they played on a grass field with real grass and it was snowing. So you saw both those uniforms get muddy as the game went on in the snow. That'd be pretty fun too. But I'll take it how it is. I'll definitely take it how it is. Can't wait for Monday Night Football. Again, glad to be back. And from my count, I think we had 2 games different at least already. So it's going to be another exciting week ahead.
Yeah, going to be a good week. And I really enjoyed seeing Hopkins kick some field goals this weekend. Perfect in not ideal, pristine conditions there with that wind, with the rain. And he was perfect. I mean, the kicks, the way the ball comes off of his foot looks so different than York. York had so much power. I think he was trying to blast it every single time. And that's why you saw that little knuckleball. He never had good looking spin coming off that ball. Hopkins did. He's one of the more accurate kickers in NFL history. Maybe doesn't have quite the leg from 50 yards and out, but I trust him really anywhere inside 45 yards and in to be a surefire, accurate guy. And he was that way in Washington. He was really good with the Chargers. And then he got injured and Cameron Dicker came in. And then really the Chargers didn't need 2 kickers. So this offseason, it was then a competition between Dicker the kicker and Hopkins. And they went with Cameron Dicker because he's the younger guy, right? Why would you not go with the younger guy if they're that marginally close? So they did that, and the Browns were able to really get the privilege of bringing in Hopkins and saw some good things there in week 1. I'm excited to see what – hopefully he stays healthy. I'm excited to see what he can do all season, but it makes you feel confident about those chances. Last thing, again, you're right. I'm so excited for the all-white uniforms, seeing those glistening off of the lights. It can't get much better than a game underneath of the lights, especially when you have those white uniforms and those white helmets. We'll see about that uniform combination come Monday night. But speaking of under the lights, of course, Friday Night Football coming up this week. Make sure you tune in here on the YouTube channel because we're going to be at Medina. It's Brunswick at Medina for the Keon Sports High School football game of the week. So make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already and tune into that game.
You getting fireworks?
I don't know. Yeah, I'd have to look it up. I haven't looked if it's
You're about to for
fireworks. I'm going to have to. 2 years in a row I've been there for their homecoming game at Medina, and fireworks go off at the end. So it is right around that time of year. I probably better check if it is homecoming weekend.
And they're playing Brunswick, a conference team. There's a chance. When I went to school eons ago, homecoming was always your first conference game at home. Now, I know that's changed over the years, but very well could be.
Yeah, perhaps.
I will say this too. Again, this is not exactly off the record. You guys know we're buddies. It's not like we hang up on the show and don't talk again for a week. So I'm driving after Madeline's birthday party, and I pop on Sunday Night Football, and they're starting to do it. And Mike Golick does a really good job. I've always loved Mike Golick. So Mike Golick's talking about the two teams and everything, and he says, a big addition to the Giants this year is Darren Waller. And all I could hear, it's my daughter's birthday, all right? But in my car, all I could hear is his voice with Waller the baller, like immediately.
Waller the baller.
So
yep.
when you said Dicker the kicker, when he said Dicker the kicker, all I could picture was Waller the baller.
Hey,
the kicker of the ball.
Careful there.
Yeah. I'm good. We're good.
But yeah, I like Darren Waller being added to the New York Giants. I think he's going to be really good for them. That was a tough week 1 game for the Giants. They didn't perform, but expect Darren Waller is going to have a good season because, like I said, he's Waller the baller. That's what I've called him for a long time.
And nobody in my car knew what the heck I was talking about when I belted it out loud either.
Oh, man.
Week 2.
Well, a good time as always. That's going to do it for week 2 for us. Of course, we'll be back for week 3. Make sure you pay attention to everything football-wise this weekend on KeonSports.com as well as the YouTube channel. Everybody, have a good night.
Climatech is a full-service company. We install as well as service both residential and commercial products. We service furnaces, air conditioners, heat pumps, boilers, mini split systems, tankless hot water. We've got a good group of technicians that have been developed into a company culture that delivers a good degree of confidence to the customer and gives us a good product output. They want to take care of the customer and make sure that the customer is satisfied with their service. And when you've got non-stressed employees at your home, you're going to get a greater result from that service call or from that installation. Our customer needs, comfort, and health are of utmost importance, and we strive to provide that to every customer within their budget. As we continue to grow, we remain focused on maintaining our high level of customer satisfaction. When you hire Climatech, you're hiring a whole team of experts that have been in the business well over 80 years. If you're looking for a new install, if you're looking for just maintenance on your equipment, we are the company of your choice.